Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tastemakers podcast. This is the podcast where we sample everything on TV and in movie theaters sometimes, and let you know what is worth checking out, what should be ignored, and what you need to know about the things that you want to ignore, perhaps. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me, as always, Grace Leeder. How you doing, Grace?
I'm doing well. It's a big week of TV turn because I feel like we're on the cusp of a lot of things, which does make for an interesting podcast time. But we're on the cusp of many season finales. We're on the cusp of some awards and lots of other things. So fun time here on scripted TV on the Tastemakers.
Yes. And for me, the cusp of Big Brother, which
oh yeah, that thing that's on for like 100 days, 24 hours a week, 7 days a week.
Historically not been great for my scripted TV watching, but I am going to do my best to keep up. But Grace may start to outpace me a little bit in the short term.
Do I need to be your tastemaker?
A little bit, perhaps.
Yeah,
we'll
a little. Yeah, between myself, Josh, Jess.
Instead of like binging whole seasons, I might be like sampling more, a little more deliberately.
We're here for you, Taran. We're here for you, Taran.
Yeah, we're here for you.
We're here to do wellness checks on you, Taran.
Yeah.
We're here to support you. We're here to time your naps.
Oh, yes.
We're going to time them.
I have pretty quick naps.
Right back to work.
Yeah.
You got a lot of TV to watch, Taran.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josh. Josh behind the scenes. As always.
And, you know, in the olden times, there was no TV on in the summer. And now there's TV all the time. It's like TV literally never not TV, which is kind of our job, which is great. That's great for us that there's never not TV.
I wonder what would have happened to me if there'd always been TV all the time and there hadn't been nothing else to watch in the summer. Who knows?
You wouldn't be a Big Brother person?
I don't know.
Maybe.
All right. Well, let's get to some TV news because we're kind of approaching some like award season-y kind of stuff here, Grace.
Yes, we are. The Emmy nominations will come out this week. I will say, so I'm very excited. Are you an awards person, Taran? I love awards shows. I think that they are pointless, and I still love them.
I enjoy them as like a fun little thing, but I don't respect them.
Oh yes, okay, yeah. That I like that. Yeah, I maybe respected them too much at one point in my life, and I'm slowly trying to be like, maybe they don't know what they're doing all the time.
I don't, especially with TV. I think I don't know that I've ever like felt like I'm in sync with like the Emmys or anything like that. I feel like they just really miss out on a lot of what I like.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to do some quick research here, but I might also need to rely on our lovely producers and our editor. This is a weird Emmy year, I think. What I really want to know is what is the window of award season. So like one thing that I think will be eternally confusing for the next few years is like the Bear season that just came out is not going to be the season of the Bear that will then probably win for best comedy. Because the cutoff window is in the spring. I believe it's the end of May, and I'm just going to get confirmation from our as we're chatting, which is so that actually means that the Bear season 2 is what people will have voted on for the Emmys that will happen in a couple of months.
I'm seeing confirmation of this. Yes.
Yeah. So that's interesting. And the other thing that because of the writer's strike, the Emmys got delayed. And so if I remember correctly, this Emmys was this year. So there'll be 2 Emmys in 1 year, that will be handed out. So very interesting year, just in terms of mostly because of the writer's strike. So yeah.
Yes. So what do we think? I mean, what are we looking at this year for Emmys here, Grace?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of, I think this is really interesting because we've talked a lot, and actually Josh and Antonio got together on the weekend programs. We're going to talk about the reaction to the Bear. And it has been sort of critically lauded, but audience are lower on it. And I think the general feeling is like it's a little frustrating. It was a little slower than people would have liked it. But it'd be funny because this fall we'll probably win for best comedy again, unless it gets category moved. So far in your watch, would you classify The Bear as a comedy? This is not a hot take to say I don't think it's a comedy. But would you classify it as a comedy or a drama?
I don't think I've ever laughed watching The Bear. So if that's the criteria, I'd say it's a bad
yeah.
comedy.
That is yeah, that's yeah, I mean, it's so stress inducing, you know.
I mean,
but,
I think I like the way I tend to look at it is that like anything that is not like 42 to 60 plus minutes tends to be like that's the drama, and then anything lower than that is a comedy, even if there is drama and no comedy. But then also some of those comedies are now like have like 5-hour episodes, like The Bear does. I'm pretty sure they definitely have 5-hour episodes. And so that also starts to get mixed. But then some episodes of The Bear are only like 20 something minutes, and it's like, okay, well, I guess it's a comedy then. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a debate about whether it should be by time. I don't know if that's right either. I don't know if that's
I
fully,
agree. I think
but
it should be
it's, I
on
don't know.
intent.
Tricky.
of
Should
show.
it just be one category?
I mean,
Movies
there
aren't
could
movies
be.
aren't like the Oscars aren't like movies aren't like they're just you just win.
like
You just
seasonal
serve the best
Emmys,
actor.
quarterly Emmys, have an
Oh,
Emmy
wow.
4 times a year, all competing in one TV show category, best show of the quarter. No genres, because the genres don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I think how it tends to go is that like The Bear won last time, so it's just like the shows that won before, especially in like these quote unquote lesser categories, I think tend to just like keep winning until something really fresh and new comes along and like dethrones it. And it's like what's gonna beat The Bear in this category? I can't think
I
of
mean,
anything.
Justice for Abbott Elementary, which I think would have like a strong case of being like
Yeah, but it would have. I feel like
that.
that would have beaten The Bear in the past if it could beat The Bear, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I feel like I mean, because it was this year, there was a lot of controversy about The Bear, and that was for its first season, whether or not it should have been in the comedy. So we'll see if that is immediately all over our Twitter. I think that the thing that I would imagine walks away with the most nominations of anything when the nominations come out is a show that was in our top 5, Taran, and it's Shogun. I think Shogun feels like it's like sort of the new hotness in prestige TV. And I would suspect, and the other thing is I believe it's going in drama, but there was because it's been renewed. Oh, it's been renewed, right? Gosh, I feel like, yeah. So it's in drama, so it will not be in limited series, which then opens up for another favorite of ours, which I think is Baby Reindeer winning. But we also would be rooting, I presume, for Ripley in that category. So a bunch of the shows that we really like.
So Ripley is miniseries because do we have word on if Ripley could continue?
Ripley is going to be in miniseries, I think, for now. This is kind of the White Lotus thing where until there's like confirmation, I think that they need to like for sure switch categories, just compete in limited series. So yeah, Fargo, Ripley, Baby Reindeer, all possibles for limited series. I think also True Detective Night Country as well, which would likely get a nomination. I think I know you have we have slightly differing opinions on how good of actually I don't think that show is amazing, but I do think I'm more willing to forgive the parts I didn't love.
Yeah. I'll say this, in the category of miniseries, I would easily give Baby Reindeer the win over Ripley because to me that is designed specifically as a standalone, whereas Ripley is not really. I mean, it's adapted from a book that is part of a series. There were a series of movies. You could very easily continue the series. And that to me is not a mini series or limited series or whatever. So even though I do really like Ripley, I would say I think Baby Reindeer fits the category much better. I also, for the record, think that like shows like Fargo and True Detective also don't quite fit the category that well. But what are you gonna do?
No, I think technically the title is often limited or anthology series is typically. So then what I mean, I feel like if it's being, although interesting, like True Detective was not being run by the same person. The show like The White Lotus is obviously being run by the same person. So, and like Fargo, I think there's so much connective tissue to it, even if it's anthology, that it probably should just have to compete in drama. But this way they get to give an extra award to something really good, I think is the trick.
It's just
I mean,
like, to
not
me,
that
it's
Baby
like
Reindeer wouldn't be, yeah.
there's having an established name is too much of an advantage to be put in a category that is specifically designed for like that I guess otherwise would be specifically designed for like an individual season. Like, shows like White Lotus, Josh is letting us know, like White Lotus is moving to regular drama.
Yeah,
Has
it is. Yeah.
previously competed in limited series. It's like White Lotus has so much momentum behind it because it's such a well-known entity. Which is the same is true of True Detective. Same is true of Fargo. Like Fargo is what, in its 5th season. It's like, it's just like that to me should be its own separate thing than like, here is a standalone 1 season show that is designed to be 1 season of a show. You've never heard of it before. It happens. You'll never hear of it again. But again, this is me taking the awards more seriously than I would normally would.
Well, the other thing too is I think to some degree, I imagine they're like, they want to have prestige, but there's also, it's not the worst thing, I think, for people to be like, oh man, The Bear's not a comedy, it's a drama. And all day, people on Twitter just being like,
Yep.
The Bear, like should be a drama, hashtag Emmys or whatever, like in the world of like the version of Twitter that Elon Musk has created. Like, I need to constantly remind myself that people are mostly posting just to get people like furious. Like, it's just like an engagement driver, and being mad is a really good way to drive engagement.
Fair.
So I don't know. It probably doesn't really matter that the stuff is as Josh Wigler is saying, lawless in the chat. So,
I do agree that Shogun, to me, just seems like the easiest show to award. Not, which is not to detract from its actual quality, but like, to me, Shogun is like a more respectable Game of Thrones kind of thing, where it's like it's very popular, but also none of that magic dragon stuff, the like nerdy stuff. Like it just has a little bit more of like an air of respectability to me that has, I think, a bit more of a broad appeal in terms of like giving it critical acclaim. So it would not surprise me at all if it really did like sweep up a lot in the Emmys.
The other one that comes that I think gets a lot of this like not necessarily a momentum, but like this is a show that we want to be nominated for best drama is The Crown, which I bet will get nominated for its final season. Don't think it'll win, but it'll be nominated. I think Fallout has a chance to be nominated. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which we talked about, a show I desperately want to be nominated, and I will be pretty furious if it does not. Taran, did you watch The Curse?
Yes. Yeah. Love Nathan Fielder.
What'd you think of The Curse?
Okay. I hated watching The Curse, but I like the show The Curse.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I had the conversation one time with the great Kevin Jacobs, RIP Big Brother Canada, but Kevin is still alive. I had a conversation with him one time. I think it was Beau is Afraid, the movie. I was like, what'd you think? And he was like, I think it was supposed to be uncomfortable the whole time. So I hated it. So I think I like it. It's like, yeah, that's fair. So I will be very mad. I think The Curse is on the bubble right now. If I look at a lot of the like betting odds sites, who people are sort of predicting, The Curse on the bubble. Yeah, Emma Stone will probably get a nod for that show, and that's maybe the extent of which it could get nominated. Off chance of like maybe some of these like down the line categories. But Josh Wicker's asked us to do our predictions, Taran, of what we think will win in each category. And I can certainly like bounce. I have a couple of sites here that have like generally what we think will be nominated. So for drama, we'll kick things off. I do think Shogun will be both nominated and will win. I don't think anything is some of the other things that people think is, as I said, The Crown, Fallout, The Morning Show, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Taran 3 Body Problem, Ahsoka, maybe. Nothing is of the quality.
Yeah, I think it's Shogun. I think it's pretty easy Shogun there.
Okay. Comedy series. I think if The Bear gets nominated, I think it's very interesting just to say if The Bear gets nominated in drama, because I think it's very beloved, and specifically season 2, where you have one of the like some of the the actors. Like I think that you'll see a lot of actor noms for that show, and that they have the best chance to win. And although, so if it gets moved into drama, that is so interesting to me. But I think it will remain in comedy, where I will pick it for what I also think will win. Some other things, Taran: What We Do in the Shadows, Abbott Elementary, as I mentioned, Hacks, Loot, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Remind me what Hacks won. I know it won something big.
Yeah, let's facts. Let's Hacks check this, but
because I do think that like Hacks has that kind of like Hacks is the kind of show I feel like awards shows like to reward, but again, I think the fact that it's in its 3rd season, I think hurts it if it hasn't already been winning. I think Jean Smart won Outstanding Lead Actress.
Yeah, so it definitely won. It got nominated for Golden Globe, and Jean Smart was nominated for Best Performance. It won in 2022 the Golden Globe for Best Television Series Comedy. It won a Peabody, Jess Sterling tells us.
So I feel like it has the credibility to potentially, I think, compete against The Bear, especially if season 3 of The Bear is enough to kind of dull the shine of season 2. There's maybe some possibility there, but I really do think that like unless it's a new show or like an on the upward swing show, it's hard to dethrone these comedy shows.
So it's been nominated for Outstanding Comedy Series twice. It did not win, and then Jean Smart obviously won, and it has been it's won for directing and writing for the 2021 awards. So yeah, I do think that Hacks is the only thing that I think has the potential to scoot to beat out The Bear. I still go with The Bear. I think the reception of season 2 of The Bear, I think there's a debate about whether season 1 or season 2 is better. You, I believe, are in the middle of season 2. But yeah, I think I would love What We Do in the Shadows to win, but I don't think it's going to.
I think it's past its prime.
Yeah. Limited series. I mean, I would, think Ripley, Baby Reindeer, Fargo, True Detective, Night Country. I think the toss-ups are Lessons in Chemistry and a show that I loved and would love to see nominated, Fellow Travelers, which I would very much like. I don't know if you check that out, but a sort of cross-time queer story that I thought was very good and very well acted, and mostly booned by how attractive the 2 leads were, probably. But that's okay. Either way, I think this is between Baby Reindeer and Ripley to win.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I think I would go Baby Reindeer, and I feel like that's probably where they will go as well. I feel like it's much more accessible, even though it's like a strange show. It had a lot more buzz, and I think it's a lot easier to watch.
So the TV Critics Association Awards were handed out recently, and I believe that it's Baby Reindeer in Limited, Shogun in Maine, and I think Hacks in comedy. I'd have to double check where The Bear was nominated there, but obviously it didn't win for the show overall. So that's good news for Hacks, I think. But in this category, yeah, I think that's I think Baby Reindeer. I think it also just has broader appeal. I think there are people who could be more likely to be out on Ripley just because it's like sort of slow and methodical, and as I like to say, pretentious. Then I think Baby Reindeer also felt newer. Like I think Ripley was like almost like an elevation of things we've seen before, and Baby Reindeer to me was one of the I just haven't seen something like that, I feel like, on TV in a while. And then the obvious aftermath, which should not play into what happened, but we'll see. And maybe that will help them with the lawsuit that they have Netflix from her. I think it's the Emmys. I mean, there's we'll see if there's any surprises once nominations come out. I think some of these shows that we're talking about certainly have a great chance to like win something else. So like I think Andrew Scott has a very good chance to win for playing Ripley. So yeah, we'll see.
We will see. There's some other news for shows coming soon. Finally hearing
did you say coming soon? So, I heard Severance is coming soon.
Oh,
AKA January 2025.
I mean, that's a lot sooner.
Can I just stop by about that real quick?
Josh,
you mind?
I don't mind. Let's
Please.
talk about what's happening with Severance.
Because now I'm in my Audi. When I'm on the podcast, I'm my Audi. When I'm behind the scenes, that's my innie. Let me Audi. Taran, 3 years. It's going to season 2 of Severance will be arriving almost exactly by a month, off by a month, 3 years after season 1 premiered. How does this happen? Who's responsible?
Well, I think with Severance specifically, there was a lot of drama, right? Like there was a lot of like and this was like 2 years ago now, so I don't even remember the details. But like, wasn't there like some infighting and some back and forth? And then there was the writer's strike, and so I think Severance specifically has had a lot of issues, right?
Yeah, that's all true, but also. Why?
More like Ben Staller. Has anybody made that joke yet, Josh? Have you heard that one? He stalls. He's stalling.
Ben still were making the show.
You're right. My first attempt wasn't that funny. You're right.
My issue. I agree, because my issue is, especially with a show like Severance, I don't remember what I
End
watched.
of sentence. Yeah,
right.
That's because we did the brain procedure on you.
No spoilers
that
for Severance.
predates the Tastemakers.
But what I will say is that the finale was really, really good. It was my favorite part of the show. I really loved the finale, and I felt like it set up something really exciting for season 2. My problem is I don't remember what that was, and I don't want to watch the season again. So unless they do a really good job of resetting me when I start season 2, I might just fall off the show entirely, because I'm like, you know what? I can't remember enough, and I don't want to rewatch.
The good news is
for me. That's going to be tough for me.
The good news is, it's January 2025.
Yeah.
What else do you got going on, Taran? It's like the opposite of Big Brother season. You know?
But we'll get
you back.
I still haven't watched Dark season 2, because I've got like 5 like recap season 1 YouTube videos that I need to watch before I watch season 2 of Dark.
Josh, this is good that Taran brought that. I think I need to leave.
Okay.
Taran hasn't watched Dark.
All right. Do you want me to stick around?
No, it's okay. I'll stay around. But
Taran,
watch. This is the worst time for me to tell you, please go watch Dark.
I need to watch those other videos first.
Okay,
look.
Sure. Listen.
At some point in the future, Taran has already watched Dark.
That's
so
true. Okay.
It's actually fine. The Dark thing is fine. And I guess also there is like a degree to which it might be one of those things where like the show is off the air for so long, and then the show starts back up, and like a really well done previously on locks you immediately back into the world. And so your Severance innie will wake up when Severance season 2 premieres on January 17th, 2025. That's the date. January 17th, 2025. It premiered February 17th-ish, 2022.
February 18th.
Sorry, February 18th. My apologies.
That's very good.
My apologies.
Can I okay. I think it's a bad
Apple TV Plus, science fiction, workplace, dramedy, Severance. If you haven't watched it, lost in an office space. This is how I elevator pitch it to people. If you haven't watched it yet, you have a much shorter wait than the rest of us. God bless you.
I mean, this is the show that, like, for me, as somebody who's watching a lot of TV, it became the easiest thing to be like, people be like, what should I watch? And I hate that question, because like, I don't know. I mean, it's funny because this is exactly the premise of the show, but it's often like, okay, tell me a little bit, but like Severance is the thing. I just like, watch Severance, just go watch Severance, go watch it right now. You need to be watching Severance, because not only was it like amazing high quality, it fit exactly the type of podcast that I think as people like as podcasters that we love, which is a mystery box show. I hate that it took 3 years, and it should not have taken 3 years, because they should be like building on the momentum. Taran, you're right that there was seemingly some like backstage, like, behind the scenes stuff that was not great. The one thing I'll say is I did not love some of the quotes I heard from the showrunner after the end of the first season, in terms of, I really didn't think people would, figure out a lot of the stuff we were trying to do. And that scared me, because I think there's such a delicate balance in a mystery box show to make sure that people are not completely surprised by what's happening. Like, it needs to make sense and have been seeded. And that is tricky, because you don't want it to feel like it's too obvious. You don't want it to feel like it came out of nowhere. And I actually think the longer he sits away from like the show being this like monumental success, I don't know in terms of like Apple TV numbers, whether that's true or not. I think Apple TV, I wanted to talk at some point, like, we should be rating which streaming service people should be having, because I think there's a debate that could be made that Apple TV is high up there.
Cultural success, and it's already in my
100%.
mind like a very serious, just to like tether it to your Emmys conversation.
Yeah.
I think in 2025, in a world without Succession, now Shogun has like a clear ramp to be, I think, especially with the Ahsoka, like with the shows that we're listing out, like Shogun's got this as on lock as any show has ever had the best drama category.
Yes.
And preemptively, as long as it doesn't sophomore slump, which is of course always a risk, there is a lot of like runway for Severance to be that show. To be that show for Apple that could be a serious drama contender. I think it was the great Dan Feinberg at THR who talked about like Apple is serious now with like a very serious contender of a comedy in Ted Lasso, and a very serious contender in a drama in Severance. And Severance coming back in 2025, the way is clear. If Dan Erickson, who's the showrunner and writer, Ben Stiller, the director, Taran, if they didn't learn the wrong lessons, I think is an open question right now.
Yeah. Well, so we'll see, I guess.
We'll see.
I think this is becoming our kit. I think we need t-shirts that say, "We'll see," Taran. I think I say that at the end of it. Like, yeah, well, we'll see. But yeah, I just think,
that's what we're doing when watching TV.
That's true.
So
That's
we will
true.
literally
we'll see shirts. Yeah.
We'll see t-shirts.
Good.
Yeah, I think that I hope that that's like the one silver lining I can find from it being so long, is like, maybe they'll forget that they felt like their show got ruined because people figured out all the twists. So
it's the Westworld problem, right? That's
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's wait and see then, and we'll see if I continue to see Severance.
Mm-hmm. You should. I mean, yeah. I do have a feeling, as mad as we are now, Severance is going to show up on Apple TV, and we're going to be there like whatever day of the week it drops, and be like, "Oh man, I'm pretty."
If they give me like a 5 to 10 minute proper reset on what came before, and get me all tense and excited again, I'm in. But like,
Taran, do you know if they choose not to do that, do you know who could do that? We're all right here. We're here.
Not the same.
No, I think it's better actually, Taran, if it comes from us, not the propaganda of human industries. Fair.
Yeah. Speaking of industry, actually, I did watch the first episode of Josh pitched this to us last week. Mm-hmm. I watched the first episode of Industry. I don't know how much you've seen.
I've seen half of the first season.
Okay. That's like what, 3 episodes?
4 episodes, yeah.
4 episodes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Josh is asking, was it as sexy as I promised? There were multiple nudity scenes in the first episode, I will say. With multiple, we got representation all over the place as well. In terms of nudity. So yeah, I mean, in that regard, I think Josh was spot on. My impression of the first episode of Industry was, I get why this show didn't take off. Because I see what it's doing, and I don't even want to say trying to do, because I don't think it's failing. Like, I see what it's doing. It's just not grabbing me. It's just not like super, like, I feel like, okay, yeah, I see that. Okay. More so that I am like gripped and invested. And I can imagine a world where if I give it more time and more seasons, that it might be able to grab me eventually. But if I was just like checking out a random show and this wasn't like HBO putting their name behind it and being like, this is going to be good, I'd probably be like, that's fine. I don't know that I'd really care to like finish it out or anything.
Yeah, interesting. I think after 4 episodes, there certainly is a thing happening to me where I'm so invested in things that are happening that I do not understand. Like for me, it's a big piece of the show is that you just have to like be okay. For me, I mean, there are smarter people than me who are probably watching and be like, oh yeah, they're doing this thing with stocks and currency and whatever. There's a moment about halfway through where a thing happens that I literally have not had this one where my jaw dropped. And I was like, oh, and I could not retell you what is I could not re-explain to you why that actually mattered, other than that I'm invested in the character and I realized that like someone was making a mistake on the show that was like bad news. And
So
so
it's like sci-fi techno babble, but for finance.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a really good analogy. And so, yeah, I have found myself to be pretty invested. I think this is a show maybe for me so far though, that I feel like there's like a fantasy baseball term where you have like I can't even remember what it is. Like Stars and Scrubs actually I think is what it is, where it's like, and I feel like sometimes like Survivor seasons feel like this, where it's like those are people I'm interested in watching. Every time they're on the screen, I'm like, yes. And then there are other people that I'm like, I'm definitely checking my phone for a minute. You know, like I am less interested. I definitely feel like so far industry has that to a degree for me. There are certain characters on the show. I think especially the leads, I think for sure, like well, Harold, I think for me is someone who I'm like very intrigued by. And then there are like other scenes where I'm like, yeah, that's fine. It's not bad. It's just like, I'm not, they have not grabbed me, as Josh said, like they're grabbing each other.
I think I agree with you. I think that's probably that could be a big fix for me if this first episode and perhaps the entire first season, or who knows, had been more focused on one character, maybe a second character, specifically in the first episode, maybe one character and their experience with another character, and left out the other side characters. I think I would have been much more engaged in the episode and much more affected by the story of the first episode. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's our catchphrase.
It's my signal for like, I'm done.
I say it too. I notice I've been saying it. Well, we'll see. Should we talk about, I think there's some interesting news in terms of some shows that are going to be on HBO. Speaking of HBO, Industry is and this is a great segue that I've realized we can do, which is that Industry will be coming on Sunday nights after House of the Dragon. They have recently announced that the Max thing is maybe, I don't know, this is interesting news. Dune Prophecy and The Penguin have both been announced that they will be HBO originals. So they will air on HBO and then be on Max. I presume like if you can just like I don't know this because I'm Canadian, but that you can watch House of the Dragon just like on Max, like immediately. Like you might have to like wait like a couple of minutes, but eventually like, okay, there's episode 5 and you could start watching it that way. But the idea being that you could that they will be on HBO and that they're not Max exclusive. Like Hacks is a Max exclusive, I believe. So yeah.
Because basically what happened was with the Discovery merger, HBO, which was like HBO, and then it was HBO Go, and then it was like HBO Max.
I forgot about HBO Go.
I didn't. And so then it was like, well, now it's like there's 2 different brands. There's HBO proper, and then there's like Max. And so the idea, I think, was that they could make more like a broader category of things under Max, and then keep the HBO a little more premium feeling theoretically. But then they were taking content that seemed like it was HBO material and putting it under Max, like potentially Dune and The Penguin. And so they were like, these are going to be Max shows, and everyone was like, that's a terrible idea. Why are you doing that? And they were like, and so for me, this headline was like, that idea we had that everyone definitely loved. We came up with an idea, which is that we're gonna actually do the opposite, and we're gonna actually make them HBO. And so for me, this is like, okay, yeah, they're just doing the thing that they should have done in the first place.
Yeah, they gave it a try, but I think that this is a world where, and I think interestingly that it's Dune Prophecy and the Penguin that are the shows that they're putting on HBO. There are some other shows in this vein that are all attached to IP. So, but HBO, I'm pretty excited by their lineup at the moment, like in terms of what they could be putting out. Whether all these shows are Sunday night shows, I don't know. But they have the potential to create a really strong Sunday night lineup that just sort of continues. There was this moment of like Succession and The Last of Us and Euphoria was maybe even in there, and all ended with The Idol. But yeah, White Lotus might have been in that run as well. That was like, man, they're just really doing it. They're like the last bastion of like prestige TV that we all sit around and there's like it's a full day of Twitter. Like I would wake up for Euphoria like days and people are like, new episode of Euphoria tonight. Supposedly filming soon on the season 3 of Euphoria, but between the Penguin, Dune Prophecy, a new Last of Us season, a new Euphoria season, as I said, at some point a second season of The Rehearsal as well, a new True Detective season, and then there are sort of these 3 shows that have become, which is the Untitled Harry Potter series, Taran, which I think at some point we will deeper dive into that because I think that's interesting and complicated and whatnot. Welcome to Derry, which is not the Dairy. It's not Dairy Girls from Netflix, but I think that they should just cast them all. It is Stephen King. It's an It series,
right?
But I will riot if they don't cast all the Dairy Girls in all the roles. Lanterns, which is a Green Lantern show. Night of the Seven Kingdoms, a Game of Thrones show. So like IP, Taran, like HBO is like.
We talked about it. That is the worlds of TV and film right now. It's that like the more you can build out worlds, the more it cross promotes, and that's super valuable. And like here's the thing: I've never been that mad about it. Like I think people have been complaining about like remakes and originality in Hollywood for a long time. That's not me. I love adaptations. Whether they're good, whether they're bad, I love just like experiencing them. And for me, if it's good, I'm fine. And if it's bad, but I like the source material, then I'm happy to see that there was an attempt like that. But that's just me. And I do still, of course, appreciate new things like Baby Reindeer, which felt really fresh. But like I'm not somebody that's going to be like ringing the alarm bell about IP.
And they hired Richard Gadd to do like the show that his next thing. Like they hired him. So I think as long as you can mix in, like I'm giving you these because if I also said like, this other show that you've never heard of, like that means nothing to you. That's why I'm like being like, this is what they're bringing. I mean, if you told me like brand new fantasy series by HBO, I'd be super into it. I'd be like, oh, that's exciting. But they paid a bunch of money, I think, to Steve Carell to bring a new comedy series to HBO, which I think, to some degree, that's not, there's no word on what that is, I think, at all. But other than that, like, like he's the guy from The Office, and The Office is, sat on Netflix for, was popular. So like, yeah, I mean, yeah, if they can sprinkle in like new hits and then, just keep going. I didn't even mention, I think, in that whole lineup, like another season of The White Lotus will be coming. So like, and that's not even IP. That's the thing that like, you could argue
now it is,
like,
but
he's created this brand, but not when he started the show. That was a risk, right? That like Mike White. Yeah, I think Mike White is very talented. I don't need to Mike White, but it was a risk. And now this like one of the most successful shows. So yeah, I'm pretty excited by that. I think this is a logical move. Put a bunch of these shows on HBO. This is how, I mean, we could talk endlessly about the conversation about binge or weekly drops, but for HBO, this is something that they should absolutely be utilizing to their advantage, that they put their shows on HBO. You can watch them live. Some of these, obviously, I don't think all of these can be Sunday night shows, but like a bunch of them. Another show people keep like telling me I need to watch, and I know I need to watch, is like Phantasmas with Julio Torres. Like they are seeding in the other stuff and like finding little hits. The Rehearsal too, like trying a new thing with Nathan Fielder. So between that and all the IP, I'm pretty excited by what HBO has to offer, and glad that they're moving away from the model that they seem to be moving in.
Yeah. Something that struck me over the last week was that I think we've both been keeping up with Presumed Innocent.
Yes.
I think I'm probably one episode behind now with all this Big Brother stuff, but for me, it's been like, it's fine. Like it's fine to throw on kind of show. But I saw recently that A, it's been renewed for season 2, and B, the reason why is that it's like the most successful Apple TV show.
Drama, I think they said.
Drama?
So I don't know.
Okay. Oh,
Would
so
that mean probably
drama,
like Ted Lasso? That could mean like Ted Lasso was more successful,
perhaps.
right? Yeah, you could figure out how to word that so that it
But
sounds the
I mean,
best
that
that
was
they
very
want, but it's
surprising to me
still
because I haven't
strong.
really heard anybody talk about it.
In terms of an Apple TV successful drama, I mean, obviously Severance, you would have think that like maybe that I
Well,
do think there's
Severance is like I think a tricky one to get. Like it's a little specific. I think it certainly can be watched by many people, but I think the entry is a little more difficult than something like Presumed Innocent.
Yes, so I agree. I feel like the litmus test for me. So first of all, Apple TV is, and I don't know how much this has changed recently, but it is one of the lower subscribed things. But I think that they are trying so hard to build such a strong library because I think the reason people maybe necessarily have not kept Apple TV is like I think for a while Ted Lasso just continually was like their most watched show because I think that the library potentially was not strong enough to like on
Keep them
Netflix
there.
like they'll pop you something else and be like you should watch this now and it's like so similar to what you watched or you've heard of it or something like that you're like okay yeah I'll watch that, whereas like Apple TV I think for me this is a show that I can be like hey dad you should watch the show to my dad. It's a dad show I think in many ways. I think it's
Yeah.
also like hitting a generation younger than that. I think it's so interesting that it's been renewed mostly because there is a sequel novel I
Mhm.
think. So that would make sense. Be interesting to see how long that they could keep going.
It is. I
Um,
think it is. I am not an expert. I actually found out that it was based on a book when I found out that it was renewed. So I certainly don't know a lot. But from what I've gathered, this is a kind of another situation where there's an interesting case of like it's renewed for season 2, but the material it would follow would not necessarily be what you'd expect them to immediately adapt into a second season, I think. That's kind of interesting to me because I feel like we're seeing that all over the place in terms like Shogun and like all of these different things that are like, well, we don't really have anything else to adapt from, but we can just keep going because this was successful.
right.
Not, which is again, not to say that they don't have something to adapt from because they do, but they might not want to adapt, I think, exactly the next thing.
Interestingly, so obviously the Presumed Innocent was made into a movie in the 90s, pretty closely after it was written. And then I believe the sequel to the novel didn't come out until 2010, and then immediately there was a movie. I believe it has Bill Pullman in it and Alfred Molina. And so which is interesting that they made a sequel. It's but they recast everybody. I mean, it would make sense. They're like it's like 10-15 years later after the first one, but yeah, so I think it'd be interesting to see if they can keep going. If it's very successful, will they like try to keep going and that's where they'll be like out of source
And like
material technically,
if there was a time jump or something,
yeah,
do they do a time jump still? Like that's the kind of thing where it's like it's interesting to me. Like what is going to be season 2?
right. Also, I have to say, for the first 2 weeks of the show, I did not have subtitles on Apple TV, and I thought his name was Rusty Savage, like Randy Savage's long lost brother, but it's actually Savage. So I apologize to everybody who I made a joke about, like where I kept hearing like, yes, this man, Rusty Savage. Like, I can't take him seriously, but I've been enjoying the show. I agree. I think it's very tropey. Like the novel was a success because the guy was a lawyer, but like he, yeah, to me, the show has been a little bit, but I'm excited to see where it goes. I've had people reaching out being like, are you spoiled? Because I have a theory on what's happening. And I'm like, I'm not spoiled, so you can tell me. And then we've been chatting about it. So I'm excited. That ends not next week, I believe the week after. So yeah.
There you go. I have continued my Bear watch.
Yes, the Bear update. Yes, tell me.
I think I've watched 3 episodes since the last time we updated
Okay.
my Bear watch.
That's great.
Here's
That's
why.
good.
Because
You've
the
had a
first-
lot going on, so also like any amount of episodes, I'm impressed by. But
Well, I've been trying. I've been putting effort in.
Yeah.
I watched Honeydew, episode 4 of season 2.
Yes.
Favorite episode of The Bear.
Wow.
Bar none.
Okay. We should see where Josh Wigler ranked it. I'll look at that in a second. Because Josh Wigler did rank all the episodes of The Bear, even though ranking is arbitrary and reductive. But
pretty high. Pretty high.
Okay, great.
Is the answer. I'll just spoil it for you. I am right here, you know.
That's a Rami Youssef directed episode. So great. Yeah.
Then I watched the next 2, which were Pop and then Fishes.
Yeah,
I know
Fishes
is like a big bear episode.
Yes.
And I watched it.
Yes.
And I was like, when does it end? I'm pretty sure I checked the time like multiple. Like I don't check the time in an episode, but I checked the time like with 3 minutes left, and I was like, surely, and I was like, oh, whew, thank God.
Okay, because I think this is a very fair take that I think Josh's take, if he wants to pop on, is that Fishes is hard to watch. He wants to never watch the episode ever again.
Never again
in his life. Yeah.
I would love to never watch it. I respect Fishes tremendously. I think it was a difficult episode to make and very, very good on a lot of levels. And I hope to never, ever, ever, ever watch it ever again for the rest of my life, forever.
My issue with Fishes.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Josh. Is that it's the kind of episode I think I would love to love, but I don't feel like The Bear has given me enough reason to like have the buy-in to like be invested enough to be in it like they want me to be. And so to me, it felt more like a chore than anything else. And so that was my issue. And this is emblematic of my relationship with The Bear, which is that like there are episodes like Honeydew, which I really liked. And then there are episodes like Fishes, which a lot of other people I think do like, but like it just don't work for me. And it's just such an up and down kind of show. And because of that, it's like anytime I put any episode on, I'm just like, am I gonna hate this or am I gonna really like this? And that's, I think, part of why it's taking me so long to watch it.
Okay, well, you are on the cusp of the other episode, and the episode that, for my money, is my favorite. So I'm super interested to, Josh asking, are you a Richie guy?
To be honest, I'm not much of an anybody guy on this show, other than Marcus, I think.
If you're looking for the Bears, they're on the Hunger Games. They're not on the actual Bears. They're not on this shit. But
there's one. Okay, and I don't want to be spoilery, but like there's one storyline in season 2 right now, and specifically that I feel like I know exactly where it's going, and I feel like if it does go there, it's just like it's spending so much time on it that like that's gonna feel very disappointing to me. I hope that they do something surprising to me that will make me feel like, oh, that was what I expected, but that was not what it was, and that time was not wasted for me. But we'll see.
Okay. Yeah. Can you give a clue to the character? Can you?
It was a new character in season 2.
Okay. I have to agree. I'm not a fan of Fishes. I think it's like it's indulgent in the ways I like these, which is funny because I think that's what some people would say about season 3 as a whole, and I will defend that season for the rest of my life. And I cannot wait in, like, as I believe Antonio said, in 2 years when everyone's like, you know what, that season 3 I think actually was pretty good. But I'm excited to continue this slow crawl of The Bear, and you should watch it as slow as you want. Everybody always, binging is bad. No, people don't want binging, or we don't want binging, I guess, but you watch it slowly. I think it's great. Yeah, fun.
Anything else, Grace?
I watched the first episodes of Sunny on Apple TV Plus. This is a Rashida Jones, but also adapted from a novel.
This is the robot show.
Yeah, it is, Taran. It is a robot show. Yeah, I have to say.
I saw it and I was like, I'm pretty sure this is the robot show, but maybe there's another part to it, but who knows?
Nope. Sunny is the robot show. Basically, a woman living in Kyoto whose husband and son have died or disappeared and in a plane crash, and she receives a robot that was made by the company that her husband worked for. So, and I believe like he was in charge of making the robot. So, and it's essentially an AI butler robot that can do anything you want. It's like sort of like second, but it can like move around. It can do all sorts of stuff. I thought the first two episodes were interesting because it is, I love trauma in my shows. So this is obviously she is dealing with trauma, and then also there is some science fiction stuff with the AI robot assistant, and there is some mystery stuff going on that she's going to try and get to the bottom of, as she's going to sort of like look into the company that she didn't really understand. She didn't really know what her husband did, and she finds out that he made a robot. So I like the first episodes. It's going to be a weekly drop moving forward. I think they did the double drop week 1, and then they'll release them singularly. I'm going to keep watching. I'll let you know how it was. I'm also halfway through the second season of Interview with the Vampire, and I have to say it's tremendous. I said it last week. I think that like we're past the first book, and I was completely wrong. I immediately realized how wrong I was, because we're in like sort of the back half of the movie territory. So if you know, it's there's a bit of an excursion into Europe, and it's just been delightful. They cast Ben Daniels, who is just one of my favorite people. He was in Foundation. He played Bel Rios in the latest season of Foundation. I think he's lovely, and he plays Santiago, and the performance is absolutely incredible. And then obviously just the usual cast of crew is amazing. I presume with the week you've had, you didn't have time for vampires, Taran.
No, not yet.
That's okay. I don't think
probably a project for post initial Big Brother surge.
Okay, I will keep watching because we keep getting a lot of requests. Like, can you please talk about it? I'm about halfway through season 2. I've thought it's good and at times better than season 1. It's really strong. I love it. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
There some movies that the Gladiator trailer dropped look like it's getting review bombed, so that's fun. Culture, fun, good. I watched Kinds of Kindness and Longlegs. I both highly recommend for entirely different reasons. Although they are both weird. Taran. But yeah, that's kind of all I have. I think at the end of the pod we should start doing a little bit of a what will we keep watching, or what are we going to try and watch this week? Everybody should watch the Big Brother premiere, and then listen to the live feed updates and the recaps. And that's coming, so it will take up a lot of time. But I'm going to keep watching Interview with the Vampire. There's a lot of finale stuff, as we mentioned earlier. The Acolyte and The Boys will both wrap up this week, so we'll probably talk about that. House of the Dragon ongoing, Presumed Innocent, have a couple more episodes left. There's a show called Lady in the Lake, which premieres. This is, I think, also an Apple TV show. I just feel like they're like pumping out content. I'm just going to double check.
King Arthur kind of thing?
This, no, this is based on a novel of the same name by Laura Lippman. This is a Natalie Portman show.
Yeah.
Yes. So I am going to check this out probably. I just want to look to see.
I'll watch this. You
Okay,
put
so
Natalie Portman in something, I'm in.
2-episode premiere, all directed by Amal Harrell, who directed Honey Boy, which was a Shia LaBeouf movie, and Luke Hedges from a few years ago. So she's directing all the episodes. 2-episode double drop, and then weekly from there. 7-episode season. Intrigued by the Natalie Portman Prestige TV Apple TV Plus show.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you anything else you're going to check out? That sounds pretty much.
I think
like
for me, I will definitely try to check out Lady in the Lake. But for me, it's going to be trying to just keep up with all the current shows, and try to not to fall behind, basically. And
next week we'll talk about the Emmy noms that come out, our reactions to them, obviously. So that'll be it. And yeah, couple season finales this week.
All right. Well, that's what we have for you then this week on the Tastemakers. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, Big Brother coverage starting soon. If you want to, if you are watching and or listening to this podcast and you don't watch Big Brother, it might be a fun time to try it.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a podcast with some of the guys from Jet Lag. who have not watched Big Brother either on Friday. They're going to
Fun.
watch the first 2 premiere night episodes of Big Brother. So they will also be new. So you can listen to that podcast and experience it from the perspective of somebody who is watching for the first time also. So anyway, Big Brother.
Can I tell you something, Taran?
Yes.
The first couple weeks of Big Brother is the absolute best time of Big Brother. It is it's the most fun. It's
Episode wise, the first couple can be a little
Okay,
rough, but yes, I agree.
Try it out. If I feel tempted though, I feel like you're following the live feed updates and everything like that's the juice of it. And obviously that maybe feels like a lot. So like, do what you can handle. I feel like if you're like listening to us be like, there's so much TV, what do you want to watch? Like, I feel like you could maybe handle some Big Brother coverage. Eventually, like it's not until like a couple months because the show lasts forever that people are like, man, this but the first few weeks are very fun. This is the good stuff. So yeah.
Well, stay tuned for all of that. And anything else? We check out our House of the Dragon coverage.
Yeah. TV for real, Mermaid. I think Josh might watch Big Brother. He's left the chat, but I think he's going to try and watch Big Brother. He's a J-Rod fan, so we'll see.
There we go. Well, that's what we have for you. Thank you all so much for joining us here today, and we will see all of you next time.